We are reminded that the book of Ecclesiastes begins with these words. In fact, Solomon writes, the words of the preacher. And so you can kind of think of the book of Ecclesiastes like a sermon that's being preached by a preacher, and now we have it in written form. As he nears the end of it, he repeats a phrase that is used several times in the sermon. In fact, he used it at the very beginning of the sermon or the book in chapter 1, verse 2, and in chapter 12 at verse 8, for the last time, he will say, vanity of vanities, all is vanity. Again, that's to remind the readers, the listeners, you and me, that what we're hearing here is the perspective that when we view life only under the sun, without God, without what's beyond the sun, the person who's beyond the sun, then indeed it all is vanity. It's meaningless, it's useless, it's pointless. And then, following that last time, he uses that phrase to remind us of that very important fact. He says, besides being wise, the preacher. So now we're back to where he was in chapter 1 again as well. Besides being wise, the preacher also taught the people knowledge, weighing and studying and arranging many proverbs with great care. The preacher sought to find words of delight, and uprightly he wrote words of truth. And he's kind of summarizing what he did with the entirety of the book and what the book's purpose was to those who received it the first time and to you and us who receive it now. And as you think about that, you see that the preacher says that he taught the people knowledge. Very important. First of all, he taught, and he taught knowledge. It says about himself that he was wise and that he taught this knowledge to make people wise. And, we really can't have wisdom without knowledge. You can have knowledge without wisdom, but he's going to teach both. And as we listen to this book, as we read this book, we're to receive both of those very important elements of our mind to develop our Christian and spiritual maturity. And then it says that he weighed and studied and arranged these many proverbs. 1 Kings chapter 4, verse 32 tells us that Solomon spoke 3,000 proverbs and over 1,000 songs. And we see that he's weighing those things and saying, what can really help, what can really benefit, what can really bless the people that I'm trying to communicate this to. And he sought to find, the ESV says, words of delight. Some translations say that it's more like the idea of words that are gracious, words that are encouraging. And as we understand what he's doing here, it's to give us that sense of gracious words that we might learn the wisdom and the knowledge to have the maturity that he wants us to arrive at. And he uprightly wrote words of truth. And so as we look at this book and really the entirety of all Scripture from beginning to end, these are words that encourage, words that teach, words that give wisdom and knowledge, but they also, most significantly, are words of truth. Believe them and obey them.